Hello, namaste, fist pump. Angus here, going on a diet, on a cut. Don't know how long for. I'm estimating about 12 weeks. Everything is set in place. I have a few prerequisites that I ideally think people should do before they go on a cut, and I've done all those things. And this is a bit of a long time coming. Had a super stressful last couple of years with lots of things up and down all over the place, and finally things are kind of stabilized and kind of ready to hit it. So I'm going to break it down into 6 components, and I'll go through each one component separately, but we will just run through them all. First one is your daily calories, and I've also included the protein into that. That's the main driver of creating an energy deficit or a calorie deficit. Number 2 is plan your meals. What I've got is a little sheet that I've got, and if you want to sign up and follow along with this, I've got a rest of the year's worth of online coaching group that you can jump into, and you'll get all these handouts and printouts and all the other various things. So basically just a sheet with 3 meals. The idea of 3 meals, I'll go into it in more detail in a second. Anyway, so planning 3 meals of breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then a couple of snacks. Then plan when you're going to eat those meals, so scheduling those meals in. I'll go into why that's important. Then number 4 is a non-negotiable. Non-negotiables are things that you are just non-negotiable in your life that you like to do. And again, I'll go into more detail with those, but they have to be considered. Number 5 is setbacks. So the number one thing that sets people back are setbacks, and there's loads of various different things that will do. And you can, if you plan ahead, you can kind of see these setbacks coming. And the longer you kind of go on a diet, the kind of harder it can be. But it's mostly because these things, you at the beginning you're high motivation, you take care of these things, and then as you go through the diet, you don't take care of these things, and they all go kaputski. Number 6 is review Saturdays, and again, this is just reviewing how you're handling it, where you are, and bits and bobs. So what I'll do is I'll just break down each one of these and go through each one of these separately, and if you want, you can sign up for, I'll drop links into this YouTube video, etc, etc, or you can just reach out and message me and get started. Anyway, let's go through them. So number 1 is calories. So this is how I break down calories for people. Get your ideal weight in kilograms. Everything here is done in kilograms. If you don't work in kilograms, just find your ideal weight in whatever, like pounds or stones, and just ask Google or Siri to convert it for you. Really simply done. But anyway, working in kilograms, find your ideal weight in kilograms. I'll use myself as an example because it's fairly easy. So at the minute, 103 kilos, and my ideal weight is around about 90. Another way to get this number is take your height in centimeters and half it, and that roughly should be the kind of body weight you should be at in kilos. So I'm 173, half of that is like 86, so it should be about 86. I'm choosing 90. I'm a little bit heavier set. Don't get hung up on these numbers. Anyway, so we've got this number 90, and all you do is take this number 90 and you times by 20. So 90 times by 20 is 1,800. That is how many calories I will have per day. If say your ideal weight is 60 kilos, that will be 1,200. And that is the calories that you have. If you're a super active person, you might want a little bit more, a little bit less, but that is your beginning calories, and don't get too hung up on that, because as we go into review Saturdays, you might up or down these calories depending on who you are. So let's stick with my numbers. So 1,800 calories is the calories that I'm going to eat, and then I need to work out how many grams of protein I need. And all you do is knock that 0 off, so 180 grams of protein is what I'm going to have, and that 180 will then become my magic number that I will base most things on or around, and I'll show you how that works in a second. So that's my calories, that's my protein. You can drop that into MyFitnessPal and just track like that. Then we move on to number 2, which is plan 3 meals. So you really want to plan the meals around the protein. So if I have 180 grams of protein, if I split that into 3-ish, that's 50 grams of protein per meal. That will get me 150 grams of protein in those main meals, and I'll make up the rest of the protein in my snacks. And you can do something similar to that. If your goal is like 120, 30 grams of protein per meal will get you 90, and then you've got another 30 grams of protein to catch up with. So breakfast, lunch, and dinner, plan out my 3 meals, and on the sheet that I use, just give yourself 3 meal options for breakfast. So one of my meal options is a protein shake, this fat pack, some nuts. I like going high fat in the morning. It just makes my brain work better, and I don't like a lot of food in my body. But if you're the opposite, you like a massive meal in the morning, then you plan to have a massive meal as long as it fits your calories. Don't freak out too much about it. And then my other meal would be like bacon and eggs, something like that. And I'll just make sure I get my calories in with that. And then I work out my lunch, will be some sort of carbohydrate like rice, with some sort of meat like chicken, with some sort of vegetables like a salad, etc. etc. And dinner will look pretty much similar to lunch. And then my snacks will be either one of those Graham's yogurts, protein bar, some fruits, some berries, maybe a packet of popcorn, etc. And you just got to see what you like as a snack, and then where you're going to have them, which takes us on to number 3, which is plan when your feeds are going to be. So I'm going to pop a screenshot in here just now of my plan. So I aim to have breakfast at the same time. I aim to have lunch at the same time, dinner at the same time, and my snack at the same time. And the reason you want to do this is because you want to activate a hormone called ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone. And if you feed yourself at the same time, that hunger hormone will come out at that time. My schedule can vary. Sometimes I can have a client when I'm meant to eat, but more often than not, I won't. And then I can just play about with that. Maybe I won't have lunch. Maybe I'll have one of my snacks, just quickly munch a protein bar before the client comes in. That'll take care of that for a while, and then eat afterwards. Just schedule what you can, especially people who work shifts and stuff. Schedule what you can. It really makes things helpful, and it really keeps you, when you go to plan future events, hey, where do you need to be at what time, etc., etc. Number 4 is your non-negotiable. So my non-negotiable is I like a Thai takeaway on a Friday night. It's not unbelievably unhealthy. It's not unbelievably crazy, but that is scheduled into my life and what I do, and that's something that I enjoy, and that's non-negotiable. I want to continue to do that. So I'm going to do a couple of things either side of that. On Friday, I'll do a high intensity workout, which will kind of deplete glycogen a little bit. So when I do eat that Thai takeaway, which will generally be higher calories than normal, but again, it's not super out of the realms. That will deplete glycogen a little bit, so I know when I'm eating that food, it's going to kind of go into muscle stores and stuff, and it'll probably be beneficial rather than detrimental to my goals. And then the next day, because I'm off on a Saturday, I'll go on some sort of long walk in the morning to kind of counterbalance that. Nothing too crazy. These are things that I want to do anyway. I'll just schedule them around each other. Number 5 is setbacks. And setbacks are things like a lack of food. You know, you're coming in, you're going to have this chicken breast, you're going to have this rice, and you don't have the rice, you don't have the chicken breast, and you're like, I don't have enough time, blah, 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 blah. So lack of food will make you, bad food or high calorie food tends to be really convenient and easy to get hold of. Where your good food or your food that fits your plan, you generally have to make or keep an eye on. So having like an emergency meal in the freezer and things like that can help you avoid setbacks, but just having more than you need in the fridge or ready to go will really help you. That's the number one thing I see with setbacks, is just having a lack of food that you need. The next one is, are you going somewhere? Say you're going up to town, it's going to cover one of your meal things. Do you take a meal with you, or do you drive past McDonald's drive-thru and then you're like, if you know you're going to go somewhere, you know you're going to have a meal, if you know there's a possibility you're going to get stuck in traffic, or you know, blah, 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 temptation, blah, 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 blah. And this all comes back to how much do you want it? Like do you want that McDonald's more than whatever? But if you're full, it's a lot easier to deny yourself these foods that are going to kind of be detrimental to your goals if you have something with you. Look out for things like gifts. Like other people will buy you food and sweets and treats and etc. etc. Lady brings in donuts to the office and stuff. Watch out for these things. These are setbacks. You could have technology issues where maybe your phone breaks and you're not tracking on MyFitnessPal, etc. So inputting your calories into MyFitnessPal does not create the calorie deficit. The eating the food does. So once you get a kind of awareness over the food, you don't really even need to use MyFitnessPal. You can just follow your meal plan that you've kind of created for yourself in step 2. The other thing is tubs and storage. Do you have enough tubs and storage? Say you're gonna have, like, say I'm gonna have this protein shake in the morning, and not that I'm telling people to go have a protein shake in the morning. It's super quick, it's super convenient. But do I have a protein shaker? If I don't have a protein shaker, then I'm likely not to have that. Maybe I have something else, and then maybe I have something that doesn't quite fit my plan, and that messes me up for the day. So having tubs and storage for the foods that you're going to eat, and maybe you do some kind of meal prep. And the kind of meal prep is more like chop some cucumbers and carrots in the fridge ready to go, but do you have tubs, etc. for that? The other one is, do you have a clean cooking space? Often you come to cook and the whole kitchen's a mess and there's stuff everywhere. Maybe this is just my house, there's stuff everywhere, and then you have to clean the kitchen before you eat, but you're starving, and then blah, 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 and then you just grab a packet of something that you have in the house. Generally, if you've got control over everything in the house, you won't have these bad foods in the house. But if you live with other people, there's sometimes bad foods in the house or other people's leftovers. That's just a lot more convenient to make than your own. So just make sure your cooking space is done. So if you're going to plan a diet for 12 weeks, which is my kind of initial outline, you need to have a look at those 12 weeks in your calendar and be like, what events do I have coming up? What birthdays are coming up? Do I have social events coming up? Do weddings? Blah, 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 blah. Those things can be major setups, or they can be things that you plan into your non-negotiables, so you have a workaround around them. So just keep an eye out for events, especially summer. Weather's beautiful, have a barbecue and a few drinks, and that's your plan for that week gone to shit. So you got to really decide, are you really wanting to go on a true calorie deficit and really create that fat loss, or are you wanting to live your life? And you can kind of make a choice and etc. You could diet for a week and you can take a week off. As long as you don't go over maintenance, you're going to be just fine. But just be careful, things can spiral out of control really easily. The other one in setbacks is making a shopping list. Just being on top of your things that you're wanting to use in your cooking. Like, I've got this baking paper, which is just amazing. It comes in 30 sheets, but that means 30 meals. You should have a chicken breast on that. Put it in George Foreman. There's no cleaning of the George Foreman afterwards. The chicken breast comes out absolutely amazing. But having stock of that in, again, can go into your setbacks if you don't have it. So having it in. The other one is injuries and illnesses. So you might think you can't prevent injuries and you can't prevent illnesses, but understand when you're in a calorie deficit, you might be more prone to injuries. So don't be pushing your fitness to unbelievable levels, even if you feel great. Just keep on top of stuff. Keeping that protein high will also keep your muscle, so you're not wasting your muscle away too much, which can then cause injuries, pulled back, pulled hamstrings, etc., etc. These things can mess up your plans and just make you feel miserable, make you just want to eat foods. Illnesses. If you're taking out a 12-week chunk, there's a good chance that you can be ill, especially when you're reducing your calories, you're reducing what's happening in your body. So keep your vitamins and minerals up. If you're eating a lot of vegetables and stuff, you should be good. But adding in some multivitamins, some vitamin D, some vitamin C into your diet can help prevent an illness in that 12-week bracket to keep you going. Number 6 is review Saturday. So this, when I told you to work out your calories, that might not be the calories you just stick to religiously over 12 weeks. They might go up and down depending on a few things that are happening. So on a review Saturday, you can review 1 to 5 and see what's messing up and what's going good. So check your feeding schedule. Does that work for you? Are you hungry at those times? Do you want to eat at those times? Do you have access to food at those times? Does your next week change from your last week? So reviewing your food schedule, upping your calories and downing your calories. And that's basically based on, were you starving? Were you irritable? Did you lose like 5 pounds in the first week, but you can't handle it? Then you need to up your calories. Don't worry so much about not losing weight. Especially, you might not lose the exact same amount of weight every single week. But if that weight trend line is coming down and you feel good, that's the main thing. Don't just bury those calories into the ground. That the calories that I've kind of given out are quite on the low end as it is if you work it out using your ideal weight. are quite on the low end. So more than likely you need to up your calories. If you're not losing too much weight, you might need to up your activity and keep an eye on the steps to make sure your steps are at an adequate level for just having a turnover of fat. And as I said before, I've got prerequisites before you go on a diet to see if your mitochondria is really even efficient enough to burn fat in the way that you want, so you're not just chewing through a bunch of muscle tissue in your deficit. So a calorie deficit isn't guaranteed fat loss, it's an energy deficit, and your body needs to get that energy from somewhere, ideally from fat and ideally not from muscle. But you could go a 50-50 split between fat and muscle, and that would be crap for weight loss. I say in the plan just have 3 meals for each thing, which is 9 different kind of food options. And that's really just to lower decision fatigue. So you don't have a cookbook, like a healthy eating cookbook with 400 recipes and you just can't decide which one. Just keep it simple. But what you can do is you can get bored of food, and you get kind of palate fatigue. So you've got this crossroads of decision fatigue, which is too many options, and palate fatigue, and the crossroads. So sometimes you want to review and add a new food in and take a food out, like, hey, I'm really bored of this chicken rice with turmeric on it. I'm going to mix this up for a Chinese-y tasting version of that, and then that will keep you going for a couple of weeks. Have a review of your cheating. Some people can just nail this, no cheating, no whatever, but have a review of, oh yeah, I did go to the little checkout and buy some of that popcorn and that didn't fit my calories that day, or the kids wanted ice cream so I went and had an ice cream that day. It's not so bad cheating, as long as it fits your calories. Don't freak out too much about it, but you should be really reviewing if that happens more often than not. You are beginning to crash, and it's maybe a signal that it's time to up your calories, not down your calories, just to allow some of these foods in, especially if you're being out of order. So you might have a weight loss goal, but your body might have different plans. So you just need to suss that out and see what happens. And then you got your H.E.C review, which is your hunger, energy, and cravings. How are your cravings? Are they in check? How is your energy? Is it good? Is it low? Are you miserable? Are you like falling asleep at work? And how is your overall hunger? If you plan the meals like I've suggested and you schedule them in, your hunger should be okay, because it shouldn't be too long for you till your next feeding. You should be eating every kind of 3 to 4, 5 hours at the most during your waking hours. And then you can just review that. So if you take care of the hunger, it's more the cravings you have to deal with and the drop in energy. But if the weather's good and you're feeling great, get out there and smash it. Then just keep an eye on your motivation. Is your motivation absolutely tanking into the ground, or are you okay? So that is my 6-step kind of things to consider when you're going on a calorie deficit, and how to set up your calories, and then just set it and forget it, and then allow everything else to kind of fluctuate with the calories, and just keep your calories still and then see what happens. There's other things that you need to consider, like monitoring your progress and etc, but I'll cover that in another video. Anyway, I've been Angus, thanks for watching, and drop a comment or a message, let me know what you think.